The story begins inside a courtroom, where the entire country is watching a case that has already shaken the public. Chairman Park, a man accused of murdering 20 people, should have been buried under the weight of his crimes. Instead, the legal result turns in his favor. The court accepts the argument that his mental state was impaired by medication, and because of that, the man who terrified the public walks away. The courtroom feels heavy with disbelief. For the families of the victims, the verdict is not just a legal decision, it feels like the world itself has looked away from their pain. Park's freedom becomes more painful because it happens in public, under lights, with everyone forced to watch him survive the consequences that should have crushed him. Outside the courthouse, the anger is immediate. Reporters surround the scene, citizens shout, and every camera points toward the man who made the impossible defense work. That man is Hagil Bayan. To everyone watching, he is the lawyer who saved a monster. The crowd does not see the quiet calculation behind his face. They only see the result, and to them, the result looks like betrayal. Eggs, insults, and camera flashes surround Hagil as he moves through the crowd. He does not try to defend himself in front of them, because he knows the public does not want an explanation right now. Their rage needs a target, and his face is the easiest one to recognize. Park, however, feels no shame. In the car after the trial, he enjoys the outrage like entertainment. He laughs at the people who believed his fake tears and treats the whole trial as a performance. Hagil does not join in the celebration. He simply explains the situation in cold legal terms. If the evidence cannot be used, the law cannot hold a man, no matter how guilty he may seem. Park is impressed by that kind of mind. He offers Hagil a place beside him, promising money, influence, and a comfortable career serving criminals who can pay. Hagil refuses without hesitation. His refusal is calm, but the way he says he will visit Park soon makes the moment feel strange. It does not sound like a polite farewell. It sounds like a warning that Park is too arrogant to understand. Park hears the words but not the danger behind them. He believes every person has a price, and because Hagil refused politely, Park assumes the lawyer is merely proud. That mistake is what allows him to walk into the night believing the case is already over. That night, Park returns to luxury. He surrounds himself with comfort, alcohol, women, and the feeling that he has defeated the world. The hotel room is high above the city, far from ordinary people and ordinary consequences. Park thinks the height protects him. He thinks money, law, and status have built a wall around him. The room around him shows everything he trusts: expensive furniture, high windows, city lights beneath him, and people who laugh because he pays them to. Park is not simply celebrating an acquittal. He is celebrating the idea that the world belongs to people ruthless enough to buy their way through it. Then Hagil appears. He does not arrive like a guest. He appears like someone who has already decided the outcome. The room changes at once. Park, who was laughing a moment earlier, now has to look at the lawyer he thought he could buy. The visit is not legal. It is not professional. It belongs to a darker part of Hagil's life. The sudden change in the room is immediate. Park's confidence cracks, and for the first time that day, he is not protected by procedure, judges, or evidence rules. There is only the man he tried to recruit and the terrifying calm with which that man has arrived. Park attacks with a blade, revealing that he is not just a rich criminal but also a violent man who knows how to fight. Hagil studies him without panic. As Park moves, Hagil explains the difference between killers. A third-class killer relies on a single kind of weapon. A second-class killer can use many weapons. A first-class killer can make anything into a weapon. Park thinks he understands the lecture, but he understands too late. Hagil calmly reveals that his own chosen weapon is a gun. The distance, the timing, and the situation have all belonged to him from the start. In that final moment, Park realizes that Hagil Bayan was never only a lawyer. He is a man who can stand in court by day and kill by night. The public may know him as an attorney, but the underworld knows another truth. He is a killer attorney, someone who uses both the law and violence depending on what the situation demands. That contradiction becomes the heart of him. In court, he can win by understanding the law better than the people judging him. Outside court, when the law leaves evil untouched, he can step into the places where no witness, no judge, and no appeal can reach. The story then turns back to the path that created a man like Hagil. Before he became a lawyer, he belonged to a hidden organization called Glory Club. On the surface, Glory Club appears to be a charitable group, the kind of organization that gives donations and pretends to help society. Behind that clean mask, it is an assassination group where killers are ranked, trained, and used. The organization teaches its members that killing is not chaos. It has categories, evaluations, and status. In that world, a person's value is measured by how efficiently they can end another life and how quietly they can disappear afterward. Hagil was part of that world, but he was not at the top. He was only a C-rank killer, stuck in a place where he could see the higher ranks but could not reach them. The gap between him and the truly elite killers was too wide. No matter how much he worked, he could feel the ceiling above him. He understood that talent and effort were not always enough. That realization hurts him more than any wound. A killer can survive failure for a while, but living every day beneath a rank he cannot break through feels like slow suffocation. Hagil begins to understand that if he stays in Glory Club, his life will be decided by limits he cannot change. That realization slowly wears him down. A killer who cannot rise becomes a tool, and Hagil does not want to spend his whole life as a disposable weapon. When he sees an advertisement for studying law, it feels like an absurd idea at first. But the more he studies, the more he discovers that the law is another battlefield, one where memory, logic, and nerve can be just as powerful as strength. To his own surprise, Hagil has talent for it. He passes the difficult path to becoming a lawyer, takes the money he saved from his killer days, and opens his own law office. He expects clients to come. He expects money to flow. In his mind, changing careers should turn his life around. The law office is supposed to be his clean beginning. The sign outside, the desk, and the professional title all promise a future where he no longer has to live as an underworld tool. But a title alone does not bring clients, and respect does not arrive just because he wants it. But reality is much colder. 5 months pass with almost no clients. The office looks cheap. The rent becomes a problem. Loans hang over him. The proud new lawyer begins to feel like a failed businessman sitting alone in a room no one wants to enter. Then a dangerous client appears. Dukhan Jo, a violent gang member with a long history of crimes, needs a lawyer. He is accused in a hit-and-run case connected to the death of Jihu's father. The evidence against him looks strong, and his attitude is disgusting, but the money attached to the case is enough to pull Hagil in. Dukhan enters the story like the kind of client a normal attorney would avoid. He is loud, insulting, and convinced that fear will make people obey him. To Hagil, however, Dukhan is also an opportunity, because desperate criminals often pay better than honest clients. Hagil quickly learns that the case depends on settlement. If the victim's son accepts money, Dukhan's position becomes easier. Hagil visits Jihu and offers a huge amount, but Jihu refuses. He is not looking for compensation. He is looking at the man accused of killing his father, and forgiveness is impossible. Soon after, Jihu is threatened by loan sharks. Hagil happens to return and sees the situation. The way he handles it shows both sides of him at once. He uses legal knowledge to name the crimes being committed, and he uses physical violence to make the attackers understand that he is not an ordinary lawyer. Jihu sees that Hagil is different from the adults who have failed him. When the danger passes, his request changes the entire direction of the story. He does not ask Hagil to win a trial. He asks him to kill Dukhan Jo. The request lands between them like a door opening into Hagil's old life. Jihu is not speaking with the careful language of the law. He is speaking from grief, debt, anger, and the helplessness of a son who watched justice become something rich and violent people can twist. Hagil first tries to keep a clean line between his two careers. He tells himself that he is acting as an attorney, not as an assassin. But the case creates a temptation that is almost too perfect. If Dukhan pays the settlement, Hagil earns his legal fee. If Jihu then uses that money to hire Hagil for revenge, both sides of Hagil's life become profitable at the same time. The idea is ugly, but Hagel is honest enough with himself to recognize its usefulness. He can feel the lawyer and the killer inside him looking at the same case from different angles. One side sees fees and procedure, the other sees timing, access, and a target. There is one major obstacle. Do-kan cannot be killed in a convenient way while he is in custody. He has to walk free first. The problem is that the evidence is heavy enough to crush him. Video footage, circumstances, and public pressure all make acquittal look nearly impossible. Ji-hoo, without fully understanding how dangerous the idea is, suggests that if evidence is the issue, someone would need to change the evidence. Hagel takes that thought seriously. He moves through the case from the shadows and turns the trial into a place where truth is not enough if the proof cannot survive. This is where Hagel's legal intelligence becomes dangerous. He does not need to prove Do-kan innocent in a moral sense. He only needs to damage the path that connects evidence to conviction, and once that path breaks, the court has to behave as if doubt is enough. The result is shocking. Do-kan is acquitted because the remaining evidence is not enough. Prosecutor Jong Ui-han, known for destroying defense lawyers, notices Hagel. Han does not see him as a normal attorney. He senses something off, something too calm and too bold. But Hagel is already thinking beyond Do-kan. When he studies the accident footage more carefully, he notices signs that the story is not as simple as everyone believed. The car's movement and hidden details suggest that Do-kan may not have been driving. Someone else may have been in the vehicle, and that person may have switched places after the crash. That discovery changes the emotional weight of the case. Until then, Ji-hoo's anger has a clear target. Now the story becomes more painful, because revenge aimed at the wrong person would only give the real killer more time. That possibility changes Ji-hoo's revenge into an investigation. If Do-kan is not the real killer, killing him would not close the wound. It would only cover the truth. Hagel decides to follow Do-kan and the people around him until the hidden driver appears. His first undercover attempt is ridiculous. He disguises himself as a delivery worker, but the setting exposes him almost instantly. The plan is clumsy, and the gang members realize something is wrong. When the disguise fails, Hagel stops relying on it. Inside the restaurant, the lawyer vanishes and the killer returns. He faces a room full of gang members without fear, turning a failed infiltration into a direct assault. For Ji-hoo, watching from the edge of the case, it becomes clearer and clearer that Hagel is not a man who solves problems in normal ways. Ji-hoo is frightened by that, but also drawn to it. Ordinary adults offered him paperwork, threats, or pity. Hagel offers something stranger, the possibility that someone can be both shameless and useful, both dangerous and protective. Inside the restaurant, Hagel fights through Do-chan's men with a strange mixture of comedy and brutality. The gang expects a lawyer to beg, run, or threaten legal action from a safe distance. Hagel does none of that. He moves as someone who has survived far worse than street thugs. The fight does not unfold like a noble duel. It is cramped, messy, and humiliating for the men who thought numbers would save them. Chairs, tables, surprise, and panic matter just as much as fists, because Hagel knows that a real fight is won by making the opponents. Confidence collapse first. He uses timing, surprise, and tools from his old life. Smoke, confusion, and sudden violence turn the room against the men who thought they had the advantage. At the same time, he keeps naming legal consequences, almost as if he is building a criminal complaint while beating them down. Do-kan loses control of the situation. The phone that connects him to the larger scheme falls into Hagel's hands. What Hagel discovers points away from ordinary gang violence and toward a stock signal room, a financial scam designed to lure desperate people with promises of impossible profits. A single phone becomes more valuable than any confession. It holds contacts, messages, rooms, and traces of the hidden network behind the accident. Hagel treats it like a map pulled from a defeated enemy. The scam works by creating trust, excitement, and greed. People are told they can earn huge returns if they follow secret signals. Victims gather in chat rooms, watch others pretend to profit, and eventually put in their own money. When the operators have what they want, the trap closes. The cruelty of the scam is that it feeds on hope. People who are already struggling are made to believe that one smart investment can save them. By the time they realize they were being guided into a trap, shame and debt make it harder for them to ask for help. Ji-hoon's father seems to have been pulled into that world. That means the accident may have happened because someone needed to protect the scam, silence a victim, or erase a trail. The death of one delivery driver is connected to a larger machine. At the center of the trail is a name, Crystal. To the public, Crystal is a famous streamer with a glamorous image. She is treated like a mysterious goddess by viewers, someone beautiful, unreachable, and strangely generous because she donates large amounts of money. But the more Hagil studies her, the less the image makes sense. A streamer adored by fans should not be connected to a gang member, a hit and run, and a stock scam. Either Crystal is hiding something, or she is being used by someone stronger than her. Hagil decides that the only way forward is to reach Crystal directly. She has no public address, no clear past, and no ordinary path of approach. Her whole existence seems carefully controlled. That does not stop Hagil. It only means he has to find a stranger door into her world. Crystal's fame works like a curtain. Fans can see her face, hear her voice, and throw money into her stream, but none of that gives them the truth. Hagil understands that the real person is hidden somewhere behind the performance. While Hagil and Ji-hoon study Crystal's broadcasts, Prosecutor Han begins looking into Hagil from the other side. The legal world and the criminal world are now closing toward the same point, even if the people involved do not yet know it. Crystal's online image is flawless. Her streams are polished, her fans adore her, and every rumor around her makes her seem more untouchable. Some believe she is a rich heiress. Others admire her because of the money she gives away. Her beauty, her mystery, and her generosity all work together like armor. Hagil refuses to be impressed. He watches the details that ordinary viewers ignore. A cup, a smell, the way long travel affects ice, the kind of coffee shop she might have visited, and even the faint hint of dye in the air become clues. To him, a location can be built from small things. To get closer, he uses the most direct route available in the streaming world, money. He spends an absurd amount to win a date with Crystal. During that meeting, he acts awkward and outdated, but his clumsiness hides the fact that he is observing everything. The date gives him what he needs. Crystal likely comes from an area near a dye factory and a specific coffee shop outside Seoul. The glamorous streamer is linked to an industrial place, not the fantasy world her fans imagine. Hagil does not gather the clues through one brilliant revelation. He gathers them through patience. Every object around Crystal becomes part of the route back to her real location, and every detail matters because the people controlling her have worked hard to erase the obvious path. The next challenge is infiltration. Hagil cannot simply walk into the organization as himself. Ji-hoon suggests that because Hagil has already used disguises, he should enter as a woman trying to become a streamer. Hagil hates the idea immediately, but the logic is difficult to deny. The plan is embarrassing, risky, and absurd. It also gives Hagil a chance to move through a door that would stay closed to him otherwise. He prepares the disguise and takes on the name Hiren, stepping into the agency as if he is another hopeful recruit. The disguise is uncomfortable for him, but it is also effective because no one expects Hagil to choose something so humiliating. That is one of his strengths. He can throw away dignity if the mission requires it, and pride becomes less important than access. Inside, the contrast between Crystal's public image and reality becomes painful. The place is not glamorous. It is hidden near industrial equipment and feels more like a trap than a studio. The people who manage the streamers speak with control rather than care. Everything about the building says that the women inside are profitable assets, not free performers. The industrial surroundings make Crystal's bright online image feel even more artificial. On screen she is surrounded by filters, hearts, and donations. Off-screen, she is surrounded by locked routines, watchful staff, and the quiet terror of people who know escape has a price. When Hagil finally meets Crystal off-camera, he sees exhaustion instead of confidence. She is not the shining figure from the stream. She looks worn down, emotionally empty, and frightened by the people around her. Crystal warns Hiren to leave. She tells the new recruit that staying could be fatal. Her warning is not the behavior of a mastermind enjoying power. It is the behavior of a prisoner trying to keep someone else from entering the same cage. Hagel tries to gain her trust. At first he is awkward, partly because the disguise forces him into unfamiliar behavior, and partly because Crystal is too wounded to open up easily. Then a silly conversation about soccer breaks the tension. For a moment, Crystal forgets the agency and speaks like a normal person with an old friend. That small human connection matters. Crystal begins to see Hiren not as competition, but as someone she wants to protect. Hagel, who came to investigate her, begins to understand that she may be one of the people who most need saving. That shift is important because it changes how he looks at her. She is no longer only a possible criminal link in Jihu's case. She becomes a witness, a victim, and a person whose fear can explain the shape of the entire organization. Then danger returns in a simple way. A hot drink spills, and Crystal insists on helping Hiren change clothes. The mission suddenly balances on a small physical detail. If Crystal discovers Hagel's body, the disguise ends, the agency turns hostile, and the case may collapse right there. The tension in that moment is not about strength. Hagel could fight his way out of many rooms, but fighting would destroy the investigation before the real boss is exposed. His survival depends on something much more fragile than combat, Crystal choosing not to look too closely. The scars on Hagel's body save him in a way he did not expect. When Crystal sees them, she does not realize the truth of his gender. Instead, she imagines a history of abuse and pain. Her own compassion stops her from looking further, and Hagel narrowly escapes exposure. The misunderstanding is almost cruel. Crystal sees scars and fills in the story with pain she can understand. Hagel survives because she is kind, and that kindness makes his deception feel heavier than before. That moment also deepens Crystal's sympathy. She treats Hiren as someone who has suffered, and because Crystal herself is trapped in suffering, the bond between them becomes stronger. Hagel has entered the agency through deception, but the feelings around him are becoming real. Outside that room, Prosecutor Han continues investigating. Dokkan tells him that Hagel is dangerous in a physical way, not just a legal one. Han begins to understand that the strange attorney may have a past connected to violence. Crystal then explains the boss who controls the agency. The story sounds almost unbelievable. The man came from America, led a gang, killed people over tiny offenses, escaped through madness and brutality, and rebuilt himself in Korea with a new identity. Everyone fears him because they know he is capable of anything. The more Crystal speaks, the more Hagel realizes the boss is not simply a gangster. He is someone who understands systems, identity, fear, and control. He is the kind of enemy who can hide behind respectability. Then the boss appears, and the truth becomes worse than expected. The man controlling the agency is Prosecutor Jong Yui-han. The prosecutor investigating Hagel, the man tied to the law, is also the criminal ruler behind Crystal's prison. That reveal changes the scale of the danger. If Han controls both evidence and crime, then normal routes of justice are already poisoned. Hagel is not only fighting a criminal, he is fighting a man who knows exactly how the system will try to catch him and how to stay one step ahead of it. For Hagel, the case now has two faces joined into one. Han is not only a legal threat. He may also be the real driver who killed Jihu's father, the man behind the stock scam, and the monster holding Crystal captive. Han does not immediately recognize Hagel through the disguise, but he is suspicious by instinct. He examines Hiren with the confidence of a man who believes everyone around him belongs to him. He searches belongings, tests the identity, and tries to make it clear that no one in the agency has privacy. Hagel prepared carefully enough to survive the first inspection. The fake identity holds. But remaining hidden is only the first part of the mission. He needs Han's DNA to compare with the blood connected to the accident. If the match is confirmed, the real driver can finally be named. The plan is simple only in theory. To collect proof from Han, Hagel has to move close enough to touch the man who commands the agency, while wearing a disguise that could fail at any second. One mistake would turn the entire building against him. The cruelty of the agency becomes clearer when the men decide to test Hyerin. Their so-called initiation is not harmless hazing. It is a threat of sexual violence, carried out in a place where victims are expected to be silent and afraid. Crystal tries to protect Hyerin despite her own terror. That choice shows how much of her real self has survived. Even after being trapped, used, and threatened, she cannot stand by while another woman is harmed. Her attempt is small compared with the strength around her, but emotionally it is enormous. Crystal has spent so long surviving by obeying that choosing to interfere means she is risking the fragile safety she still has. Hagil reaches his limit. In the soundproof room, the attackers think they have privacy. They think the room protects them because no one outside can hear. Hagil turns that protection upside down. If no one can hear the victim, then no one can hear the attacker suffer either. He drops the helpless act and destroys the thug with controlled violence. The scene is brutal, but for Hagil it is also practical. He needs the thug silent, frightened, and useful. By the time he is done, the man who thought he was a predator becomes evidence, leverage, and a warning. Hagil's violence is never only anger. He uses fear as a tool, evidence as leverage, and humiliation as a lock on the thug's mouth. The attacker leaves the room alive, but no longer in control of his own secret. The disguise remains alive, but only barely. Hagil has now crossed a line inside the agency, and the number of people who might expose him keeps growing. At the same time, Crystal's trust in Hyerin becomes more painful, because the person she is trying to protect is hiding the truth from her. After the assault attempt, Hagil uses the defeated thug's shame against him. He takes evidence that can blackmail him and makes sure the man will not easily reveal what happened. It is not elegant, but Hagil's world has never been elegant. It is about survival and pressure. Now he has to get close to Han. A blood sample would be ideal, but Hagil knows hair can work for DNA too. The problem is that reaching Han means standing directly in front of the most dangerous person in the building while still pretending to be Hyerin. Crystal stays near him, still believing Hyerin is another trapped woman. She tries to offer comfort and companionship, which makes the deception heavier. Hagil has to protect her while lying to her, and each kind moment between them makes the eventual truth more dangerous. Han brings Hyerin into his private space. The atmosphere becomes tense immediately. Han uses charm the way others use knives. He tries to control the situation with drinks, personal questions, and the confidence of a predator who thinks he cannot be caught. Hagil is too experienced to fall easily. He plays along just enough to keep Han comfortable, avoids the dangers hidden in the room, and moves close enough to secure a hair sample. The action is small, but it may carry the weight of the entire case. A strand of hair can do what accusations cannot. It can connect Han to the blood in the car, to the night of the accident, and to Jihu's father's death. That tiny physical trace becomes the bridge between suspicion and proof. Then Han begins revealing what he truly is. He speaks about being a prosecutor as a talent, not a calling. The law is something he is good at, a tool he can use. What he enjoys is something else entirely: danger, pain, and the feeling of control when evidence disappears. His words make the accident with Jihu's father feel even darker. It was not simply a cover-up. Han enjoyed the violence and trusted his legal position to erase what followed. Hagil now understands the enemy more clearly. Han is not acting out of panic. He is acting from appetite. This makes him more frightening than a normal criminal. A normal criminal might make mistakes because he wants money or escape. Han makes danger on purpose, then smiles inside it, because danger itself is what he wants. The DNA sample must get out, but Crystal still remains inside the agency. Hagil cannot finish the case by saving only the evidence. If he leaves her behind, the agency will consume her again. To move the evidence out, Hagil chooses a ridiculous but effective route. He gets Han to drive him outside, using the man's own car and confidence against him. Then, at a convenience store, he creates an opening with a childish excuse. In that short gap, Hagil passes the hair sample to Jihu and sends him toward forensic testing. The proof begins moving toward the outside world, away from Han's direct control. For the first time, the case has something that can survive beyond Hagel's body. If Jihu reaches the right place, Han's polished identity can begin to crack. That is why the next few minutes become so tense. But danger shifts toward Jihu. At Hagel's office, old trouble appears in the form of loan sharks. Jihu is trapped between the past problems of his own life and the new criminal world Hagel has dragged him into. Then Han arrives near the office. The coincidence is terrible, and Han's instincts are sharp. He notices details too quickly. The office, the people, the timing, and the connections all begin arranging themselves in his mind. Han pushes Jihu to contact Hagel, trying to force a mistake. Hagel barely prevents the phone from exposing him, but the escape is narrow. Then Han recognizes Jihu, and the danger changes shape. He now knows the victim's son is connected to the strange defense lawyer who got Dukhan released. That connection is dangerous because Han is smart enough to work backward from it. If Jihu is involved, then the case was never just about Dukhan. If Hagel is involved, then the missing evidence and the agency infiltration may belong to the same hidden plan. The case is no longer hidden from Han. He may not know every detail, but he has seen enough to become far more dangerous. Hagel has proof moving through the world, but the enemy is now awake. Police sirens interrupt Han before he can fully corner Jihu, giving Hagel just enough room to move. He returns to Crystal, knowing that evidence alone will not matter if Han destroys everyone connected to it. Crystal finally opens up about why escape feels impossible. She tells the story of people who once tried to run from the agency. Their attempt did not end in freedom. It ended in death, trafficking, and a bloody warning for everyone left behind. Crystal had to live with that memory, and it taught her that hope could be dangerous. Her fear is not weakness. It is something the agency trained into her through examples. Every time she thinks about escape, she remembers what happened to people who tried, and that memory pulls her back into the cage. She gives Hagel her real identity, even though she still believes him to be Hyerin. Her name is Boksun Choi. The name matters because Crystal is a mask created for viewers and criminals. Boksun is the person buried underneath, the person who wants to be remembered if she cannot be saved. When she gives that name away, she is not just sharing information. She is handing Hagel proof that a real person still exists beneath the costume. She wants someone to remember Boksun even if the world only knows Crystal. Then Han calls them in. He has discovered enough to turn trust into a weapon. In front of Crystal, he exposes Hagel's identity. The friend she trusted, the woman she tried to protect, was never truly that person. The betrayal cuts deeply. Crystal's heartbreak is exactly what Han wants. He enjoys taking pain that already exists and twisting it into something sharper. He hands Crystal a gun and manipulates her into a performance of revenge, but even that is rigged. Han's cruelty is precise. He does not simply threaten people, he studies what will hurt them most. For Crystal, the wound is trust, so he cuts there first. Crystal tries to turn the weapon against Han, but the weapon is arranged so she cannot control the outcome. Hagel reads the situation and throws himself in to protect her. He is wounded, and Han uses the moment to seize control of the room again. Now Hagel is bleeding, Crystal is broken, and Han believes the game has reached its final stage. He orders a grave prepared as if the lawyer has already become a corpse. But Hagel's most dangerous moments often begin when everyone else thinks he is finished. The injury changes the rhythm of the fight. Hagel cannot waste movement anymore. Every breath matters, every second matters, and every decision has to serve more than one purpose. Blood loss starts stealing Hagel's time. Han demands to know where the evidence is, because he understands that proof is only useful if someone survives to use it. If Hagel dies, the truth can die with him. Hagel refuses to collapse. He cuts the lights and turns the room into darkness. The thugs panic, but Hagel uses equipment that lets him see what they cannot. In the confusion, he moves like a predator inside a place designed to bury him. To the men around him, it looks almost supernatural. They think he is sensing them through sound or instinct. In reality, Hagel is using preparation, technology, and experience. The dark does not save him completely, but it gives him a narrow path through the men trying to kill him. The room becomes a place of confusion. Men swing at shadows, cough and smoke, and hesitate because they no longer trust their senses. Hagel uses that hesitation like a weapon. Han responds by making the situation worse. He pours gasoline and sets the space on fire. The agency becomes a burning cage, and the fight changes from a beating into a deathmatch. Inside the flames, Han explains the emptiness at the center of his life. Ordinary pleasures do not reach him. Ordinary cruelty does not satisfy him. He needs danger close to his own body before he can feel alive. That is why he seeks thrills, why he creates risks, and why he treats human lives like tools for sensation. His past as a prosecutor shows the same sickness. He could hurt people, threaten them, and abuse power, but it was never enough unless his own life stood near the edge too. For Han, morality is meaningless. Only stimulation matters. That is why he feels so empty and so dangerous at the same time. He does not want peace, money, or even simple victory. He wants the sharp moment when death might touch him, and he is willing to burn everyone around him to feel it. He sees Hagel as someone similar. Both of them know violence. Both of them can stay calm near death. Han believes that makes them the same kind of creature. But the burning room also shows the difference. Han creates pain because he wants to feel. Hagel steps into pain because he is trying to save people and expose the truth. They share darkness, but their choices are not the same. This difference becomes the invisible line between them. Han believes darkness proves identity. Hagel proves that darkness only reveals what a person chooses to do when normal rules stop working. The fire spreads, smoke fills the space, and Hagel's wound keeps draining him. Han blocks the exit and enjoys every second, treating the burning room like a stage built for his pleasure. Hagel tries to buy time. He talks, jokes, and provokes, but underneath the words he is reading the air, the smoke, and Han's breathing. Even while injured, he turns the environment into part of his strategy. The burning room is not just background. Smoke lowers visibility, heat pressures breathing, and panic changes timing. Hagel cannot overpower Han easily, so he has to make the room itself participate in the fight. Carbon monoxide and smoke become weapons. Hagel uses Han's awareness of breathing against him and creates an opening. For a moment, the burning room stops being Han's playground and becomes Hagel's trap. Still, Han is terrifyingly strong. He fights like someone trained far beyond ordinary criminals. His speed and precision remind Hagel of high-ranking killers. Every exchange costs Hagel more blood and strength. Crystal, who has been pushed again and again into helplessness, finally acts. She throws a fire extinguisher and gives Hagel the moment he needs. Her intervention is not just physical. It proves Han has not destroyed her will. Crystal's choice gives the scene a different emotional weight. She is no longer only someone being rescued. She becomes someone who helps create the opening for her own rescue. Hagel uses the extinguisher, the smoke, and the chaos to stay alive. But as the fight continues, he notices that Han's attacks are not normal. The wounds do not match bare fists. Something is cutting, tearing, and striking with hidden force. Then the weapon is revealed. Han is using a brutal close-range hybrid, a weapon that combines the impact of knuckles, the damage of a blade, and the threat of a gun. In a burning room, at close distance, it is almost perfect for execution. Han's weapon fits his personality. It is excessive, cruel, and designed to make every distance dangerous. If Hagel stays far, he risks the shot. If he moves close, he risks the blade and the crushing strike. Hagel now has to survive bullets, smoke, fire, blood loss, and a man who enjoys every second of the danger. The fight becomes less about winning cleanly and more about refusing to die before the truth can leave the room. Han fires at close range, and Hagel is forced into the narrow spaces between death and survival. He understands the weapon's limits, but understanding danger does not erase danger. Every movement has to be exact. There is no space for dramatic waste. A step too slow means being shot. A step too wide means being cut. Hagil has to survive by reading Han's rhythm and forcing his body to answer before his strength runs out. Han tries to destroy him mentally. He speaks about Jiho's father and reveals that the man did not die instantly. He was alive after the crash, still thinking about his son, still tied to ordinary human love in his final moments. Han chose to make that suffering worse. Then he threatens Jiho as well. He wants Hagil to lose control. He wants the killer side of him to take over completely, because if Hagil kills him in rage, Han can prove that they are the same. That is Han's real temptation. He is not only trying to win the fight. He is trying to drag Hagil into a moral defeat, to make him abandon the fragile line he has built between punishment and murder. For a moment, Hagil seems ready to answer as a murderer. He and Han both come from blood. Both know the weight of violence. Both can step past the fear that stops ordinary people. But Hagil has something Han does not. He has people pulling him back from becoming only a killer. Jiho's grief, Crystal's pain, and the role Hagil chose as an attorney all become anchors. Killing Han would be simple compared to forcing him into the consequences of the law. Hagil chooses to defeat Han as both fighter and lawyer. He lays out the crimes, the punishment, and the fact that Han's power cannot protect him forever. In that moment, the courtroom and the battlefield meet inside Hagil. The law alone could not reach this room, and violence alone would not repair what Han destroyed. Hagil stands between both worlds, using the strength of one to deliver the consequences of the other. Crystal also faces the man who used and terrorized so many people. Her anger is not just for herself, but for everyone crushed under Han's system. Hagil turns Han's own cruelty back on him in a humiliating way, stripping away the power Han enjoyed using over others. Han falls, and the fire that was supposed to erase the evidence instead becomes the end of his hidden empire. The case returns from smoke and blood to the public world of charges, trials, and punishment. That return matters because Han spent so long believing he could control both crime and justice. The same system he manipulated now becomes the stage where his hidden life is exposed. The truth about Han spreads. The respected prosecutor is revealed as Tony Kim, a criminal who escaped his past in America and rebuilt himself in Korea under a clean identity. The man who used the law as a weapon is finally placed under the weight of it. His punishment is enormous. The courts, the media, and the public now see him not as a prosecutor but as a violent syndicate boss. Dokkan and the gang members tied to the earlier crimes are punished as well. For Jiho, the result cannot bring his father back, but it changes the meaning of his grief. His father's death is no longer buried under lies. The person truly responsible has been exposed, and the truth has reached the world. Jiho's grief does not vanish. It becomes quieter, less directionless. The lie that trapped him has finally been broken, and that gives him room to live with his father as a memory instead of only as an unsolved wound. Hagil's public image shifts. Before, people hated him as the lawyer who freed criminals. Now they cheer him as the lawyer who uncovered a monster. Hagil responds with his usual rough humor, but the change matters. It proves that law, violence, and public judgment can all turn quickly depending on what people are allowed to see. Crystal, now Boksun again, begins moving toward a life outside the agency. She studies, returns toward her hometown, and slowly separates herself from the false identity that was built for viewers and criminals. She still remembers hiring, even though that person was a lie. The friendship was complicated, but the feeling behind it was not completely false. That contradiction stays with her. Hagil deceived her, but the comfort she felt was real, and the rescue that followed was real. Boksun leaves with a painful understanding that truth and kindness do not always arrive in clean forms. Jiho visits his father's memorial. The revenge that once consumed him has changed into a quieter gratitude. A fund is arranged for his future, turning the settlement money into something that supports his life instead of only marking his loss. Then Jiho comes to Hagil with a new decision. He wants to work under him. He does not ask for normal pay or normal safety. He wants to stand beside the strange lawyer who helped him face the truth. Peace lasts only briefly. A new case arrives through the world of idols. Anna, the center of the girl group Aria, is being destroyed by a scandal video she insists is fake. Hagil's next battlefield will not begin in a gang hideout or a courtroom. It begins in the cruel public eye of entertainment and the internet. This new world is different from Han's burning agency, but it is not gentler. Here, reputations can be destroyed without a fist being raised, and a fake image can wound someone faster than a knife. Arya's rise once felt like a miracle. A busking video helped the group explode into popularity, and Anna became the center everyone watched. She was talented, bright, and loved in the way idols are loved when the public decides to turn them into symbols. That love disappears almost overnight when a scandal video spreads. The internet moves faster than truth. People who adored Anna begin attacking her. Fans become judges. Strangers treat rumors as facts. The group that rose through attention now starts drowning in the same attention. That reversal is especially cruel. Arya needed views, comments, and fans to survive. Now the same crowd energy turns against Anna, and every platform that once lifted her becomes a place where strangers gather to tear her down. Hagil and Jihu first meet Anna while she is being harassed and almost taken away by men who think her scandal gives them permission to treat her as less than human. Hagil intervenes, and Anna reaches his office shaken, exhausted, and desperate. She explains that the person in the video is not her. She had gone to a hotel for an innocent reason connected to her manager and transportation, but the scandal turned that location into evidence against her. The public does not care about context. It only cares about the image it has already accepted. Anna's voice becomes smaller under the noise. Every denial sounds weak when thousands of people have already decided the video is proof. The more she tries to explain, the more people accuse her of lying. Hagil identifies the crime as a deepfake. The video is not simply a rumor. It is a manufactured attack using private images and modern technology to create a convincing lie. That means the culprit needed access to detailed material. Ordinary public photos would not be enough. The fake likely required images of Anna without makeup, private angles, and personal data from inside the company. The suspect list becomes painful. It could be staff. It could be the agency. It could even be one of the Arya members, because the people closest to Anna have the easiest access to her private life. This is what makes the case so isolating for Anna. The attacker may not be a faceless stranger. It may be someone who saw her tired, barefaced, and unguarded, then turned that private trust into a weapon. Hagil decides to enter the idol world from the inside. He will not disguise himself as an idol. Instead, he becomes Anna's manager, a role that lets him move close to schedules, staff, members, and the private spaces where the truth may be hiding. The manager role also lets Hagil see how much pressure Anna carries even when there is no immediate attack. Every appointment, rehearsal, and public movement becomes another place where scandal can follow her. The entertainment company accepts Hagil as Anna's temporary manager, and Jihu slips into the environment through another role. Their plan is practical: watch everyone around Anna, find who had access, and identify who benefits from the scandal. The job quickly proves miserable. Hagil has to deal with schedules, reporters, clothes, shoes, production pressure, and the constant emotional chaos surrounding an idol group in crisis. He may be a killer attorney, but the work of a manager nearly breaks his patience. That contrast adds a strange humor to the case. Hagil can face killers without blinking, yet idol schedules, wardrobe emergencies, and company demands create a different kind of exhaustion. The entertainment world has its own violence, dressed as work. At first, the Arya members do not look guilty enough. They seem friendly, even supportive in public. Hagil watches them for days and struggles to find the kind of motive that would justify destroying Anna. Jihu notices what Hagil misses at first: small cruelties. The members put Anna in uncomfortable positions, embarrass her through content, and allow the public to see her in the worst possible light. Their jealousy is real, and their kindness has cracks. Still, jealousy alone may not explain the deepfake. If Arya collapses because of Anna's scandal, the other members suffer too. Their careers, sponsorships, and futures all depend on the group surviving. That makes the suspicion more complicated.
The members can resent Anna and still be victims of the same scandal. Their jealousy may explain cruelty, but not necessarily the crime. To see the truth behind schedules and cameras, Hagil moves into the dorm environment. He overprepares in an absurd way, treating the idle dorm almost like a fortress he has to secure. Anna is frightened, and the dorm should be the one place she can breathe. Instead, danger enters through the door. A security guard who is also a longtime fan comes into Anna's room. He does not act like a protector. He acts like someone who believes his obsession gives him rights over her body and privacy. The scene is terrifying because it twists the language of fandom into something invasive. The guard believes he loves Anna, but his version of love leaves no room for her fear, her boundaries, or her humanity. Anna is trapped with a man who thinks he deserves proof of her innocence. He focuses on details from the scandal video and demands that she show him whether her body matches it. The situation is terrifying because Anna understands that panic could make him more violent. She tries to survive through recognition. She remembers him from a fan event and uses that memory to calm him. For a brief moment, the man feels special. He believes Anna's memory proves a personal connection between them. Anna uses the only safe tool available to her, the image he already has of her. She turns his fantasy of being recognized into a rope she can hold, hoping it will keep him from crossing the final line. But obsession is unstable. His shame, desire, and anger keep twisting. The same feeling that makes him soften can turn into violence again if he feels rejected or exposed. Hagil has not been as careless as he seemed. He noticed the sound of the guard's work boots and the way the footsteps stopped near Anna's room. When he enters, he immediately turns the situation into evidence. He photographs the crime scene and confronts the man with brutal confidence. The guard attacks, and Hagil shields Anna from the worst of the violence before taking him down. Hagil's message is simple: a real fan protects the person they admire. A real fan does not invade their room, threaten them, or demand ownership over them. Hagil's anger here is simple and direct. He may be rough, but he understands the difference between protection and possession. The guard never did. The police removed the guard, but Hagil is uneasy. The attack ended too cleanly. If someone powerful arranged it, then the incident should be only one move in a larger plan. His suspicion becomes real when Haixing appears, a B-rank killer from Glory Club. The presence of a glory killer means the case is no longer just idle harassment or online scandal. Someone with money and access to the assassination world is involved. That realization widens the case instantly. The deepfake is no longer only a cybercrime. It is connected to physical threats, paid violence, and a hidden client willing to escalate whenever Anna survives the previous attack. Haixing knows Hagil from the past and mocks the life he has chosen. To him, Hagil looks ridiculous working as an idol's manager after once belonging to the world of killers. Hagil answers with insults, but the danger is real. Haixing is physically terrifying, with grip strength far beyond an ordinary person. Every movement carries the possibility of being crushed. Their fight turns the building into chaos. Hagil uses wit and dirty tactics to stay alive, but Haixing's strength makes every exchange dangerous. The battle leaves damage behind that ordinary police might mistake for a major attack. For Hagil, the fight is also a message from his old life. Glory Club has not disappeared just because he became a lawyer. Its killers can still step into his new cases, reminding him that the past remains close. Haixing warns Hagil to drop the case if he wants to live. The warning matters more than the insults. It confirms that the mastermind is connected to Glory and powerful enough to hire a B-rank killer. Hagil returns to Anna and tries to sound casual. He promises that the guard will be punished and begins locking down the dorm like a prison. He wants Anna to believe she is safe, even though he knows the danger is growing. Anna finally breaks. The scandal, the hatred, the break-in, and the feeling of being watched have crushed her ability to sleep. She admits she is terrified and asks Hagil to stay nearby through the night. The case becomes more than clearing a fake video. Anna is not just a client with a damaged reputation.
She is a young woman being hunted by strangers, fans, criminals, and a hidden mastermind who wants her life destroyed.
That layered pressure explains why Anna cannot simply be brave and move on. Every direction contains a different threat.
The public shames her, fans invade her, killers circle her, and the mastermind waits for the next chance to strike. During the night, Anna explains what the world has become for her. When she steps outside, every person feels like a threat. A raised hand could be a greeting, but her body prepares for an attack.
A stranger's glance feels like a blade.
The worst part is that going home does not free her. When she lies down and closes her eyes, the hateful comments and stares return in her mind.
The internet follows her into bed.
The public judgment becomes a weight on her chest.
Her suffering is not limited to public appearances.
It becomes part of her breathing, her sleep, and her sense of her own body. The scandal has entered the private places where she used to recover from being an idol. Hagil comforts her clumsily. He is not gentle in a polished way, but he understands fear and pressure. He explains that trying to force a thought away can make it stronger. Instead of telling her not to be afraid, he tries to help her survive the fear. He distracts her with strange stories from his own school days, including a ridiculous memory involving a cruel teacher and a back scratcher. The story is absurd, but it works because it shifts Anna's mind away from the staring crowd inside her head.
Hagil does not comfort like a professional counselor. He comforts like someone throwing odd objects into a dark room until one of them makes a sound. Somehow, his strange honesty gives Anna enough distraction to rest. As Anna slowly relaxes, Hagil realizes that the case is deeper than he first believed. The person behind it is not merely trying to embarrass her. They are applying pressure from many directions: online hate, physical intrusion, hired violence, and psychological collapse. Embarrassment would have been cruel enough, but the pattern shows something more systematic. Each attack is timed to break a different support: public trust, physical safety, company stability, and Anna's courage. Jihu confirms another piece from the party. The Arya members are jealous of Anna, but they also suffer from her scandal. If the group fails, they lose their own futures. Their behavior may be ugly, but the motive for the deepfake points somewhere else. The security guard is released too easily, and before he can become useful, someone silences him. That tells Hagil the mastermind is cleaning up loose ends. At the party, President Gyunhong Jin appears. He is one of Korea's richest cash tycoons, a man whose wealth is so vast that even major business figures rely on him. At first glance he looks unimpressive, almost too small for the fear around him. Jin's power does not feel loud at first. It feels quiet and accepted, as if everyone around him has already learned that money this large creates its own gravity. People laugh when he wants them to laugh and freeze when his mood changes. Then he reveals his nature. He punishes a waiter in front of everyone and forces the guests to applaud as if cruelty is entertainment. Jihu immediately senses that the party is dangerous and tries to leave. Jin notices him. He knows Jihu's name and Hagil's name, and his invitation to dinner feels less like hospitality than a trap being politely set. The politeness is part of the threat. Jin does not need to shout to make people afraid. He only needs to show that he already knows more than he should. When Hagil and Jihu enter Jin's neighborhood, Hagil notices something wrong in the air. The place may not look like a palace, but the atmosphere smells of blood and dirty money. Jin's wealth does not need a clean mansion to show itself. It controls the streets around him. That control makes his neighborhood feel like territory rather than home. Every guard, every building, and every person waiting nearby seems to belong to the same invisible network of cash and fear. The guards at Jin's property try to search Jihu by force. Hagil reacts instantly, using both legal threats and physical strength. He treats the guards like criminals committing crimes in real time, and he makes them understand that touching his assistant has consequences. Jin appears and apologizes with exaggerated politeness. Then he punishes his own men for making him apologize. The apology is not kindness. It is another way to show that everyone around him is property. Jin performs civility only when it strengthens his power. If his men embarrass him, he does not correct them like employees.
He punishes them like objects that failed to serve their purpose. At dinner, Jin studies Hagil. He already knows about the law office and the manager job. He knows enough to show that he has investigated them carefully. He also speaks about Anna's private life in a way that makes Hagil's suspicion sharpen. Jin compares himself to someone who already knows the winning lottery numbers.
Ordinary people gamble with hope.
He acts as if the outcome is already his. The message is simple: he sees himself as someone above ordinary rules.
That belief makes him different from Han. Han wanted danger because it made him feel alive.
Jin wants control because he believes money has already made him something beyond human judgment.
Hagil suspects Jin is behind the deepfake, but suspicion is not evidence.
Jin is too confident for a man afraid of being caught. The fact that he invited them to dinner means he knows Hagil has nothing solid.
Back at the dorm, Hagil confirms that Jin is tied to Anna's agency as an investor.
The motive is still unclear, but the access begins to make sense. If Jin wanted private material, someone inside the company could have opened the door.
Anna decides she is tired of hiding.
She goes live and tells her fans that she has done nothing shameful. It is a brave attempt to reclaim her own voice. Jin answers with another attack.
A new fake video spreads, this time showing Anna abusing a store employee. The public anger explodes again. Hagil realizes Jin is not merely hiding a crime. He is demonstrating what he can do whenever Anna tries to stand up. The timing is vicious. Anna's live broadcast is an act of courage, and Jin answers it with a new humiliation. He teaches her that every attempt to reclaim her voice can be punished in front of the entire world. The second deepfake changes the investigation.
The culprit needed private, makeup-free photos and company data. Ordinary staff may have seen some files, but only one person had the authority to open the company drive to outsiders, the agency president, Jaehyun Song.
Hagil storms into Song's office and finds him acting suspiciously.
The man tries to push him away, but Hagil forces the conversation toward Anna's video. Anna is falling apart because the fake looks real, and public opinion is ready to believe anything ugly.
At first, Hagil hopes the store incident can be disproven by checking whether the employee exists. But the employee does exist.
She quit right after the incident, making her another person connected to the case who has disappeared from reach.
Hagil confronts Song with the digital pattern. The company drive was made publicly accessible twice. Both times happened just before a deepfake video appeared.
Only Song had the authority to change those sharing settings.
The digital trail is not emotional, but it is powerful.
Unlike rumors, computer settings do not care about fame or fear. They show who opened the door, and when. Before Song can speak freely, a gunshot from outside cuts through the room. It is not meant to kill him immediately.
It is a warning. Hagil realizes that Song is not only guilty. He is also being watched. That warning shot changes Song from a simple villain into a frightened accomplice.
He still caused harm, but the fear in him reveals that Jin's system punishes even the people who help it.
Terrified, Song admits he opened access because he was pressured and tempted. 3 months earlier, Jin visited the agency with cash, promises of huge investment, and an opportunity that could lift Anna's career globally. Song wanted Arya to rise, and he wanted the money that came with that rise.
He gave Jin access to the company drive without understanding how the private data would be weaponized.
Or perhaps he chose not to understand. Either way, Anna paid the price. Song's excuses cannot erase the result.
His ambition created the opening, Jin's cruelty used it, and Anna became the person forced to carry the damage in public.
The remaining trail leads to a private account called Face Phantom, the likely deepfake creator or broker.
The communication is hidden behind encrypted messaging, so Hagil cannot simply hand the case to the police and wait. Instead, he uses Song's account as bait. He pretends to offer even more private material connected to Anna, including the kind of disgusting item that would lure someone obsessed with exploiting her.
Face Phantom takes the bait and agrees to meet.
The bait works because it is aimed at desire, greed, and arrogance all at once. Whoever is behind the account believes the world is full of desperate people willing to sell anything, and Hagil uses that belief against them.
Hagil and Ji-hoo wait at a cafe in disguise.
Ji-hoo grabs a suspicious person, but Hagil notices the real target elsewhere. Face Phantom slips past them, and the final surprise is that the person they are chasing appears to be a woman.
That surprise does not make the crime softer.
It only reminds Hagil and Ji-hoo that obsession, cruelty, and exploitation are not limited to the type of suspect they expected. The chase begins immediately. Face Phantom runs with surprising speed, moving like someone used to escaping trouble. Ji-hoo struggles to keep up, and Hagil appears to fall behind. Her body is small, but her reactions are sharp. She knows how to slip through a crowd, how to use hesitation, and how to make pursuers underestimate her for half a second too long. But Hagil never expected a simple chase to work. He had already prepared for the possibility of escape. Face Phantom crashes into a trap in the street, and Hagil catches her before she can vanish.
Hagil does not treat her as a misunderstood genius or harmless internet criminal.
To him, the screen does not make the damage less real. A fake video can destroy a life as surely as a physical attack.
Back at the office, Ji-hoo asks how Hagil knew she was the real Phantom. Hagil explains that she did not behave like an ordinary customer.
Her attention stayed on
the shopping bag, not the coffee or the meeting. She came to collect the bait.
That detail proves Hagil's trap worked.
Face Phantom was not dragged into the case by accident.
She made a choice, followed the offer, and walked directly toward the evidence Hagil needed. Face Phantom is strange, shameless, and dangerous in a different way from Jean. She claims she has no boss and works for herself.
Her obsession with Anna is disturbing because it is not political or strategic. She wants Anna's belongings simply because Anna is beautiful and famous.
Her obsession is childish and grotesque at the same time. She talks about Anna as if fame turns a person into a collectible object, something fans or criminals can own piece by piece.
Hagil tries pressure. She resists.
Then he uses her own device against her, forcing access through facial recognition and exposing the trail inside. When legal charges begin piling up, her confidence finally cracks.
Cybercrime, defamation, fraud, and other crimes could bury her for years. Face Phantom may act fearless online, but prison terrifies her. She starts talking.
The shift happens quickly once the fantasy of immunity disappears. Online, Phantom can hide behind usernames and encrypted rooms.
In Hagil's office, tied to consequences she can understand, she becomes much less fearless.
She explains that she is a freelance contractor known in illegal circles.
Most jobs involve explicit fake content, but Anna's case was different.
The client did not just want to exploit her image. He wanted to destroy her completely. That sentence clarifies the whole second arc. Anna is not merely a source of profit or desire. To the client, she is a target whose comeback, dignity, and future must all be erased.
The problem remains evidence.
Everything was handled through encrypted chat rooms. The client is protected by distance, anonymity, and money. Ji-hoo wants to run straight at Jean, but Hagil knows that without proof, they will only crash into Jin's confidence.
So Hagil decides to become Phantom. If the client cannot be traced, then the client must be made to speak again. Hagil will use Phantom's identity and make the enemy come to him.
It is a risky inversion.
Instead of searching through a maze of hidden accounts, Hagil steps into the mask of the person the client already trusts.
The trap now depends on whether he can speak like Phantom without revealing himself. Then the next message arrives.
The client wants one final fake video, one designed to make sure Anna can never return. The requested scandal is even more destructive than the previous ones.
Ji-hoo is furious, but Hagil forces him to stay calm. For the first time, they are holding the client's active plan in their own hands. That gives them power, but also urgency. If they move too slowly, Jean can still release another lie. If they move too carelessly, he will realize Phantom has been compromised. Elsewhere, Jean shows the kind of game he truly enjoys. He gathers two debtors who have known each other for years and threatens them with horrific consequences if they cannot repay what they owe. This scene shows Jean away from Anna's case, but it explains him perfectly.
Money is not only something he owns.
It is the chain he uses to pull people into rooms where morality can be auctioned off.
Then he offers a deal. If one kills the other, the survivor's debt will be erased and cash will be given.
At first, the men refuse. Their friendship, their fear, and their remaining humanity resist the idea. For a few moments, the two men still remember who they are to each other. 17 years of friendship stands between them and the knife, but Jean understands that fear can make even old memories feel fragile.
But Jean understands pressure.
He adds money, death, and desperation until the men begin thinking like trapped animals. One convinces himself that both are already doomed, and that killing his friend might at least save his own family. The friendship collapses.
A blade comes out.
Pain, betrayal, and panic fill the room.
Jean watches it all with satisfaction, as if human loyalty is just another toy to break.
That is the final tone of this part of the story. Hagel is preparing a trap through Phantom's phone, Anna's future is still hanging by a thread, and Jean is proving that he can turn debt, shame, and survival into weapons whenever he wants. When his men ask about Hagel, Jean tells them to leave the lawyer alone for now.
He believes Hagel is fishing without knowing what waits beneath the water.
Hagel thinks he is setting bait, but Jean is